with a completely insane-looking piece of escapist sci-fi magic. Everybody? Cool. Let's look at 6 reasons to get extremely excited about the first trailer for Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets on today's Nerdist News. Star Wars back in our lives and the Star Trek franchise still going strong, we're in a glorious renaissance for big, imaginative sci-fi worlds. But outside of the occasional Jupiter ascending, it's been a while since we've seen a fresh, unfamiliar sci-fi fantasia on the big screen. I know, Jupiter ascending. I know. Anyway, this July, our big-budget original sci-fi fantasy drought will end when Luc Besson, the man who brought us The Fifth Element, brings the classic French graphic novel series Valerian to the big screen. And if that teaser that dropped today is any indication, this has gonna be amazing! So without further ado, here are 6 reasons to be psyched for Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. First, do you find the gonzo, mind-bending visuals on display here familiar? Well, that might be because artist and co-creator of Valerian, Jean-Claude Mézères, worked with Luc Besson before when the director approached him to help design The Fifth Element. In fact, Besson wanted to adapt Valerian as far back as the mid-90s when he began work on his sci-fi opus. Unfortunately, technology wasn't ready to create the film's incredibly detailed CG worlds at the time, but it sure as hell is now. In fact, Besson claims there isn't a single final VFX shot in sight, with lots and lots of details still left to be added. And while we're on the subject of Valerian's legacy in the sci-fi world, did you know that Star Wars itself cribbed a great deal from the original comics? 'Cause it totally did. Valerian has been running since the late 60s, and if you look at Ralph McQuarrie's original Star Wars concept art, the comparisons are undeniable. But it goes beyond just the look, as pointed out by Shot Glass Digital a few years back. The Clone Wars, Vader's unmasking, and the Cantina scene all have parallels in Valerian. So in a lot of ways, The City of a Thousand Planets is a long-time coming adaptation of one of sci-fi cinema's granddaddies. So now that we've broached the Star Wars subject, you may be worrying to yourself that this movie looks a bit like, how would James Mangold say it? CG fest, am I right? But worry not, it sounds like Besson and his team took a very unprequely approach to this flick that should ensure better performances against these massive CG backdrops and a more fully realized world. According to a Nerdist interview with Besson at his edit bay in Beverly Hills, the film began with 2 years of design work and planning before moving into production. A 600-page Bible was created featuring 5 pages of background on each of the 100-plus alien races seen in the flick, as well as an extensive decade-by-decade history of Alpha, the titular city of 1,000 planets that acts as the film's setting. Both lead actors had to read through this massive tome before filming began so they'd know the context and background of every single alien they communicated with, whether it was a practical creature, a partially animated one, or a totally CG green suit situation. All this to add a sense of gravity and reality to a mostly animated world, which is pretty awesome. And speaking of those 100-plus alien races, don't count on any No Man's Sky-esque recycling of design ideas. Besson kicked his design phase off by writing 2,000 letters to various art schools around the world seeking concepts. He narrowed that group down to 5 primary artists who helped craft a varied palette of aliens, ships, weapons, and planets in an effort to make it feel like the world of the movie spills off the frame. And it looks like it's working. I mean, what is up with these underwater farming dudes whose brains are sending energy up to some machine? Or these weird 6-limbed robot guys with laser heads? We're all over the place here, which works because we're supposed to be looking at a universal collective of aliens that evolved in all sorts of different environments. But like all sci-fi franchises these days, you may be wondering whether this is just the first chapter in a hopeful franchise or the first piece in a cinematic universe.
Hey!
Yay! More cinematic universes. Well, yes and no, and that is a good thing. According to Besson, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets won't leave you with a dissatisfying cliffhanger ending, and no, this movie is a complete story with a beginning, middle, and end, but should the option arise, Besson is more than ready to continue the story. By the time that the City of a Thousand Planets comes out, he expects to have the sequel written, so if this becomes the next big sci-fi mega franchise, great! And if it doesn't, well, at least we won't be left with a pile of unanswered questions and incomplete character arcs. And finally, perhaps the most unique and exciting twist to Valerian's world, he and his space cop partner Laureline are actually spatio-temporal agents, which means that in addition to patrolling space on behalf of humankind, they also crack down on time itself. Yep, These guys are time travelers too, which means that while we won't see much in the way of Doctor Who-esque antics in the first film, we could be in for some wild time-roaming madness in the sequels. The duo's massive ship, the Intruder, is capable of traveling 30 centuries into the past, which could certainly give Besson and his team a way to amp up the crazy for a sequel. And for now, at least, we would really like to see that happen. But what do you guys think? Are you psyched for Valerian? Did you love the first teaser? Have you read the comics before? And if so, what are you most excited to see brought to life? Let's discuss. We're talking more Valerian with our experts on Nerdist News Talks back live on Twitch and Facebook, so make sure you're lurking our feeds. Kyle has an all-new Because Science where he breaks down how Cyclops' laser eyes work, which is pretty cool. Check us out at Nerdist.com and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Nerdist news.